Hey, Laura here from The Unprofessional, and today I am going to build a raised bed, but rather than build a standard raised bed, I am going to build this garden bed into the slope of my hill. So this space drains directly into a rain garden. My whole yard is at a slope, so I'm going to continue with the slope. That's why I'm doing this style of garden bed, and I think it's going to turn out great, I hope. The materials and tools for this project were minimal. I used 12-inch rebar, 6-inch rugged structural screws, and untreated fir 4x4s that I treated with Eco Wood Sealer after I built the project. I also used some paver base just to make sure everything was nice and flat. For the length of the garden bed, I used 8-foot lumber, and I custom cut each side piece to fit the slope of the hill. The total dimensions of my garden bed are 8 feet 3.5 inches by 3 feet 10 inches. I set a level string line at the bottom and measured out my bed space, leaving a few feet for paths between the terraced bed above and the stone path below. Eventually, I planned to build an arched trellis over the bottom path, so I accounted for that in my measurements. Although the bed is sloped, it is important that the bottom layer is set level, since the rest of the frame will be built on top of it. I used a thin layer of paver base under each of the bottom 4x4s, and this helped make everything nice and level and filled in any gaps. With the first 4x4 in place, I drilled holes for the rebar and hammered them in. I used 3 12-inch pieces of rebar to securely attach the first 4x4 to the ground. I used additional pieces of rebar later for the side pieces, or really for any place where the 4x4 sat flush with the ground. I admit that using rebar may have been overkill, but because the bed is on a slope, it does have some retaining wall-like qualities, and rebar guarantees it will not shift. I cut the sides to length based on the shape of the hill. I leveled each side to the bottom 4x4 and used a rubber mallet where I needed to, just to make sure everything was nice and level. I secured it in place with rebar, and I used a structural screw at the corner. The first layer does not make a complete rectangle. The shape forms as the layers are added. I cut the next layer of side pieces. I used minimal digging to step the side pieces up the slope, and I used paver base where I needed to level things out, and did a dry fit to make sure it all lined up. I was careful to make each of my corners 90 degrees. This way I know that the back 8-foot 4x4 will be a perfect fit. I attached the second layer to the first with structural screws. I pre-drilled and used 4 6-inch screws per 8 feet. Be sure to sink the heads of the screws between the layers so that the 4x4s lay flat. I also connected each corner with a screw. I was also careful to check the level between each layer. I really wanted to make sure that all of my pieces lined up and everything looked nice. Even though this bed is built into a slope, it doesn't mean I don't want it to be level. The corners of each layer are staggered, which adds stability to the structure. The third layer follows the same process. This is a really great project to do with beginner builders or with kids because all of the fundamentals of building are repeated for each layer. 90-degree corners, a level base, and it all comes together really quickly. I attached the top 4x4 with screws at the corners and just 2 pieces of rebar securing it to the ground. I waited a few weekends and then I treated the inside with Eco Wood Waterproofer and I applied a light stain on the outside. And then we added a trellis. After that, it was ready for topsoil. We filled it up with a mix of topsoil and compost and some vermiculture. The plants with deeper roots are planted at the bottom, and herbs and flowers do great at the top. I'm a big fan of the slope bed. It saves materials and it works with the shape of the land instead of against it. Hey, this is Laura from The Unprofessional. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, don't forget to click the like button and subscribe. And if you like this content, you can head over to my website, theunprofessional.com, for more.
Good.